Hey guys, what's up? This is Pants Art Dragon, and today we'll be doing the top 5 best junglers for solo queue. In this patch, this will be the World's patch, and this is the patch where Warrior has been buffed, Devourer has been nerfed, Skarner was touched a bit, and I recently discovered some fun junglers. So yeah, some things have been changed, and with that being said, let's get started. So at number 10 is gonna be Shyvana. So I don't really like Devourer junglers in my elo. They also kinda got nerfed this patch, but not really. But Shyvana is a decent and maybe the best Devourer jungler at the moment, as she can E someone and then Q them, and then they'll basically chunk for half their hit point, especially if they're squishy. The only problem about her is she doesn't really have any early game presence unless she has like Exhaust and Stalker's Blade. But even then, she should probably be farming until she's like level 6. And also, she's really good at counter ganking, so look out for those. Next up is Ekko. So apparently he's still good as a Cinderhulk jungler and tank, as he still brings a lot of CC. Some people are going Runeglaive and AP Ekko. I feel like that's more of a solo queue build, but for like competitive, people will still be building tank for him. And like, he's just really good at setting up early game ganks with his W. The 2.25 second stun is super powerful, and he has nice base damage. After level 6, it is very hard to kill Ekko, since his ultimate basically puts him 4 seconds back in time and disengaging him from the fight. He's also really good at tower diving from what I noticed, as if the enemy is trying to protect themselves from being sieged on, he can just go in and dive, and of course tank all the damage and then ult out, especially if his team has a really good team fight. Either way, I think you'll see him at Worlds. Next up is Pantheon. So this guy kinda got a buff in patch 5.17, and on today's patch, because Warrior did get plus 5 AD, that helps Pantheon a lot because he has really good AD scaling. It's like his full combo has a bonus AD ratio of 500%. So I mean, it does add like 25 damage or whatever. But also in conjunction with the buff on patch 5.17 where they increased his base attack speed, which meant faster clears and taking a bit less damage because of his passive blocking the large monster's auto attack, so that's nice. Either way, they're kinda small buffs, but it does help him, and I always thought he was a really good jungler. So now he's definitely in my champion pool even more, and he is great for solo queue, especially if you're in platinum or diamond, because you can just keep camping bottom lane and they don't realize you're coming. In my elo, it's kinda harder because they kinda have a sense that if they don't know where I am, they're probably gonna get ganked when I'm level 6. So it tends to be a bit harder, but other than that, he's pretty good. Can definitely do a lot of damage to squishies once he has his Warrior, Brutalizer, and Last Whisperer. Next up is gonna be Tahm Kench. Honestly, I feel like he's a really good jungler, and you might see him at Worlds. Like, I mean, his early game is kinda ass. You can probably like get some ganks here and now, but it's very risky as you can be caught out since you don't have any escapes. You're not as tanky since you don't have Cinderhulk yet, and you're probably just farming the early game, but once you hit level 6, your ultimate is one of the lowest cooldowns of a semi-global ultimate. It can also bring a friend, so if you in mid lane decide to go bot lane, that's going to be super nice. And if you have really good communication, you can definitely coordinate something like that. But for solo queue, it kind of takes like typing and pings and stuff, so that's kind of well, that's just us being lazy. But usually it's a solo mission, and the ganks still work out really good when you appear behind them. And of course, once he gets his ultimate, his clears become super nice, his damage gets a huge buff, and he's just a really strong jungler, and kind of hard to kill him because he probably has like 2k health times 2 because of his shield. And once people realize that you can actually dive with him pretty easily, he's probably going to be a super big threat in that sense. Either way, I'm only putting him at number 7 because either he's not actually OP or he's like sleeper OP. I think he's really good, but I don't think he's seeing a lot of play yet. I think people feel like he's more of a top laner. I don't feel that way at all. But yeah, this is just my opinion. I think he's super strong. He could be like top 5 if other people start playing him. Next up is gonna be Wukong. So with the addition of double jungle being a thing, it makes his hit point after being level 3 really nice, and he can now gank and apply some early game pressure. Even if you aren't doing double jungle and you're in lower elo, I feel like he just scales so well into mid game, late game. It doesn't even matter if you're like behind, ahead, or going even. But at least for me, I feel like he's in my top 3 personally. I just feel like I can carry, and if I don't, I still have CC, lots of base damage, and just go pure tank. And also Warrior got buffed, but I mean, who cares, it's only 5 AD. But it is still something. Either way, he's good in Challenger, and he's actually better in lower elo, so I definitely say you should main him if you want to climb. And of course, be a monkey like me. Next up is going to be Elise. Okay, so this is a guy I ban if I'm playing Wukong, since he's a great counter to him, or I pick Wukong if he's not on the other team. But anyways, he's still at number 5, warrior, got buffed a bit, who cares. There are many great Lisins in Challenger and Master. They can carry the early game so hard, and their execution mid game and late game by using the insect ultimate, or doing what Lee Sin does and should be doing in the mid game and late game, is perfect. He sucks in low elo because people can't go 90% on this champion. I mean, if you're really good at him, you can easily climb with this champion, but people have to realize that he's actually a really hard champion to master and kind of hard to play. Next up is Rek'Sai. So she actually got a nerf in 5.17, and it was actually pretty significant. Like, on her first auto attack after she unburls, it gave her 15 fury, which increased her E damage, and also gave her a bit more sustain, so she can't get to her true damage as easy as she did before. And yeah, it's just an early game nerf. I don't think it hurts her mid game and late game too much. She's more of a tank than a damage dealer, but it does hurt her early game. But her clears are still significantly really good, as she can make her tunnels and make that tunnel route. She has her ultimate for the basically free teleport, and she still has a lot of base damage. Although I don't prioritize her as much as Wukong or Tahm Kench, but I think other people would say that they'd prioritize her over Wukong or Tahm Kench. But maybe I'm just weird and I play those two champions in Challenger Elo. I mean, there's a rare time occurrence that other people play those other champions, but it's very rare. Next up is going to be Nidalee. So nothing has really happened to her ever since last patch, where she got nerfed with her Q damage and the cast time, and that didn't really do much. Her early game is still phenomenal. She can definitely carry and farm amazingly. She has very nice mobility, and it takes a lot of skill for her to land those spears and definitely, carry the game. But one thing I don't like about her is that she's easily countered by some magic resist. Like, her spears won't be devastating as much as they did before once like tanks get MR and she's forced to get Void Staff, and you can see like her damage is actually kind of falling off in that late game. Once even squishies get Banshee's Veil or some magic resist, they become hard to kill. But I feel like she's really annoying in the game, and she can be really annoying. Next up is gonna be Evelynn. Ooh, this girl, I like her. She's like so good in early game, applies that nice pressure. Runeglaive the best jungler item at the moment. And add Rallies to her kit or Deadman's Plate. I think Deadman's gonna actually come first. She has very strong sticky power in that sense, and she can definitely be very unkiteable. And her initiation power is very nice too. The only thing I don't like about her is how she kind of falls off late game. Like, I feel like her damage isn't there unless you're building some AP, and she just kind of feels a bit squishy. I just feel like her early game is so good. Just so good. And at number 1 is going to be Elise. So Elise in this patch, at later levels, her Spiderlings actually gets a base damage nerf. But at levels 1 to 5, it's the same. So it doesn't affect her early game at all. And that's where she's most strongest, since her Cocoon is on a 1.6 second stun. And as long as she can keep maxing out W second, she's always going to be really good in terms of utility and damage. There's also 2 builds. You can go Cinderhawk or you can go the AP build. And I didn't know this, but the Rallies actually procs on her Spiderlings, which apply to 40% slow. So she's actually very sticky with this. I think Runeglaive is the better one, since that's the most OP item for junglers. And it makes your early game and mid game very strong. But I do think it varies on the person on how they want to play Elise. Also for runes, I think taking attack speed is stupid because you maxed out W second now, so there's no point of getting that attack speed. So I'd much rather go Hybrid Pen or Magic Penetration. But yeah, she is probably the queen of the jungle at the moment. And next up, we're going to be doing some honorable mentions. First up is going to be Rengar. So play him if you like cat food and are really good at Rengar. Otherwise, there's different champions you can play, but he's very good at carrying the game since he can make picks everywhere on the map. Everyone always splits and does something stupid and don't realize there's a Rengar on the other team, so it's very easy for Rengar to pick people off. Obviously really good in the right hands, but if the enemy starts grouping, well, I mean, if he has really late game items, he can definitely one-shot the squishies, but it's gonna need some time to do that. Next up is Nocturne, and I've been seeing him fairly a bit, as his ultimate cooldown has gone down a bit, and the ultimate range was buffed. Also, Warrior been buffed, but who cares, it's only 5 AD. And I will say he's like fairly a pretty good champion, but there's a lot better at the moment. Next up is Skarner. A lot of nerfs kind of came to him. He's kind of slow and takes a bit of a while for him to ramp up, but he's like really good in the mid game and late game. Early game, it's very hard for him to do some things except, farm the jungle, but that's about it. Next up is Diana, personal favorite, maybe better than Shyvana, could be a number 10, blah blah blah, and I like her. Yeah, I like her because she's fun to play. She's a brain dead champion and I don't like thinking. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did enjoy this video. It really does help me. Comment below on who your #1 jungler is. My personal is Wukong. And I will see you guys next time.
Sugar